darkest pages of history were undoubtedly written between the world wars, after the absurd butchery of 1914-1918. In using the fear inspired by the Bolshevik Revolution, some leaders instituted a new authoritative political and social order, dictatorship. The phenomenon occurs and develops in two countries, Italy and Germany. First Mussolini, then Hitler, flatter their countrymen's basest impulses, manipulate crowds, preach violence, favor brute strength over human rights, and seize power whilst dreaming of world conquest. By the time the Western powers realized the danger looming over Europe due to their weakness, indecisiveness, mistakes, and cowardice, it will be too late to avoid the maelstrom, in which civilization will come close to disappearing. Eight and a half million men die in the war, and in 1919 Europe is in ruins. The Versailles Treaty compromises future peace and resolves no problems. It merely widens the breach between the victors and the vanquished. The Germans claim they've been stabbed in the back, and the Italians describe a mutilated victory. And the Italians are the first to resort to weapons. Through speeches more than by his writing, the poet Gabriele D'Annunzio understands how to exploit his countrymen's nationalistic feelings. Leading his shocked troops, the Arditi, he takes Fiume, a town placed under the control of the Allies. He establishes an authoritarian corporatist state which will inspire the leader of fascism. This is the movement's future leader, Benito Mussolini, a former socialist militant. He creates the Fasci in 1919, which are fighting units. Fascism is less a doctrine than a concerted violent action in view of seizing power. And power is there for the taking after a series of successive strikes. Italy is virtually headless. The advent of communism is either expected or feared by the population. Violence breaks out in the streets in Milan and Turin in the Fiat factories. The fascists break the strikes, upheld by industrialists and landowners. Neither the army nor the government react. Mussolini uses the circumstances intelligently. He erases the revolutionary aspects of his program and sends his black shirts off against anything vaguely resembling the left. The fascists win 35 seats in the 1921 elections, whereas the socialists, who have just broken off with the communists, are losing seats. That year, Mussolini transforms his fasci into the National Fascist Party. It will number 700,000 members by 1922. In October, Balbo convinces him to send his black shirts against the capital. The March on Rome looks more like a parade than an attack and could easily have been turned back by the army had only Victor Emmanuel III decided to sign the decree proclaiming a state of siege. The March on Rome becomes fascist legend, and on October 30th, the king receives Mussolini and asks him to form a new government. Mussolini, now president of the council, begins by respecting parliamentary rules as he creates the fascist militia in 1923, then the fascist high council, the supreme state organism. More important, he implements a new law which automatically guarantees him a large majority in both the Senate and the House, over 65%. But in 1924, Matteotti, a socialist deputy who has made a violent speech against fascist manipulations and law-breaking, is assassinated. There's a tremendous scandal, and Mussolini almost loses his grip. Once again, he is saved by the king, who uses the occasion to reinforce his own power. By the end of 1925, the president of the council becomes Il Duce. He may now promulgate laws and decrees without even consulting his ministers. Parties are suppressed. A secret police is created. Violence becomes systematic. Freedom of the press is abolished. Dictatorship is taking over. In Germany, fascism is also born right after the war, mainly because of the humiliation of defeat. It begins with the idea that Germany could only have lost because she was undermined by an internal revolution. A socialist republic is formed after Wilhelm's abdication, but Karl Liebknecht, who wanted to import Marxism to Germany, and Rosa Luxemburg, who is a revolutionary, the Spartacist leaders, are assassinated during a week of violent fighting. The Weimar Republic is saved by an alliance with the army. Right from the beginning, the regime is condemned because it accepts the clauses of the Versailles Treaty, which German public opinion considers an outrage. Germany is on the brink of chaos. At this point, an unknown man is going to appear. His name is Adolf Hitler, and his troubled life resembles his turbulent times. He was born in Austria, near the German border, and he fails his art studies in Vienna, which at the time is a glowing example of culture and intelligence. He then begins to hate the Jews, of which there are many in Vienna. He's an antisocial vagrant, and in 1914 he's fascinated by his discovery of war and violence. He will live with both for over 30 years. He joins a tiny group in 1919 and renames it the German Workers' National Socialist Party. He imposes the swastika. He asks Röhm to organize a militia, the SA. Meanwhile, the situation is explosive in the demilitarized Ruhr region east of the Rhine. There are riots. In order to re-establish peace and in retaliation for non-payment of war debts outlined by the Versailles Treaty, the French occupy the area and answer the bomb attacks and passive resistance by deporting 150,000 persons, which incurs the wrath of the whole country. 1923 is a tragic year for Germany. The depression is especially hard on the workers. Stockholders and retired persons are ruined. Inflation allows industrialists to carve out new empires. The mark is spiraling down. At the beginning of the year, $1 is worth 18,000 marks. By November, it is worth 8 million marks. Bad feelings increase. Rioting by the jobless multiply. The communists use the situation to amplify the violence of the demonstrations in an attempt to impose a workers' republic. The extreme right also uses the situation. Hitler provokes a revolt in a Munich beer cellar in November 1923. He is contained, arrested, and condemned to 5 years in prison. This is where he will write Mein Kampf, whose main premise is a single tragic idea. The world is a jungle where the strongest survive. The white races, especially the Aryans, are superior to all others, especially the Jews, who are a corruption of humanity and must be eliminated. Germans are destined to rule the world. This means war, first against the French, who are responsible for the defeat. All Hitler's thoughts are resumed in Mein Kampf. But when the book is published in 1925, no one will take it seriously. No one. In Italy, Mussolini consolidates fascist institutions. The idea is simple: control the population in every phase of its life to teach it proper conduct. Baby Italians are immediately included in an organization. By the age of 4, he is a son of the wolf, a tribute to Roman history. Then the child becomes a member of a ballidas, where he receives pre-military training. The motto is believe, obey, fight. And everyone has to wear the fascist uniform. The teenager is inducted into the avant-gardists and then joins the party. The Duce's idea is simple. I take the man in the crib and I let go of him when he dies, thus turning him over to the Pope. To prevent class conflict, a new social organization is created with a cooperative system that is a mixture of syndicalism and totalitarianism, grouping the workers, the bosses, state representatives, as well as fascist officials. Tremendous projects are created. Mussolini claims they will reduce unemployment.
Una delle più grandi opere del primo decennio del regime fascista.
120,000 acres of the Pontine swamps are dried up, decreasing malaria. The wheat battle lasts 6 years and is supposed to give Italy cereal autonomy and enhance rural virtues. The Duce himself lends a hand, sometimes in shirt sleeves, sometimes without. The first autostrade, or large highways, appear in Italy. New cities are founded. This is when the so-called Mussolini style appears. It is voluntarily heavy and monumental, and has left traces throughout Italy. A great urban plan transforms Rome. A university city is built, as well as cheap apartments. Trajan's Forum is excavated, and large avenues are inaugurated. All this is intended to resuscitate the Roman Empire. Mussolini pontifically announces the birth of the Third Rome, after that of the Caesars and that of the popes. Any means are used to entrench the idea of dictatorship in a historical context. Territorial expansion is a major fascist theme. In speeches, the Mediterranean becomes an Italian lake, the Adriatic, Mare Nostrum, our sea. Mussolini always appears in uniform and claims that war is to man what motherhood is to woman, and that the 20th century will be the century during which Italy will lead humanity. Meanwhile, propaganda is going full speed ahead. An infallible leader, the Duce has a real cult following. One tame philosopher claims he is an instrument of providence sent to create a new civilization. The regime's motto is, Mussolini is always right. In fact, he even starts believing in it himself. His judgment becomes clouded by megalomania. Nobody dares to contradict him. He will only be governed by what he calls his animal instinct. His speeches are both demagogical and contradictory. In a single breath, he declares that the fascists are aristocrats and democrats, radical and reactionary, conservative and progressive, legalists and illegalists.
Guardi del corpo! Voi siete soprattutto e volete essere la guardia del corpo della rivoluzione e del regime fascista.
You are my bodyguards and the ramparts of the regime, he says to those listening to him. He's not only an orator, he's an actor, and he's a ham actor at that. He gestures, makes faces, mimics, poses, anything that works. Fascinated, the people idolize him. Mothers ask him to bless their child, and peasants kneel as he passes by. All he needs now is religious endorsement. He has renounced his early anti-clericalism to prone all family virtues, and has won the Vatican's support. In 1929, within the scope of the Latran Agreement, the Pope concedes that he only rules the city of the Vatican and relieves 4 billion lira. Divorce is abolished. Schools dole out religious instruction. More important, the people and international opinion conclude that fascism has the Pope's blessing. In Germany, French troops evacuate the Ruhr, conforming with the international agreements. Is this the beginning of European stability and reconciliation? Not really. The occupation and evacuation of the Ruhr's only result is to awaken nationalistic German feelings. Six months after his sentencing for the Munich outburst, Hitler is pardoned, but he has learned his lesson. He will now gain power through legal means. He enhances the power of the SA and strengthens his power with parades, demonstrations, fights and arguments during political rallies. He opts for any violent symbol, such as this pagan flag ceremony. Once again, events will help Hitler. The Wall Street crash in '29 triggers a worldwide crisis that submerges Germany. The Americans withdraw their capital, and the loss of exports drives Germany to despair. 1/3 of the population is touched. There are bank runs, and factories are closed. 2 million unemployed in 1929, 6 million during the winter of 1931-32. The The crisis demands enrollment in the SA or the communist brigades. Once again, the situation profits the extreme right or the extreme left. Convinced they must stop communism at any cost, the industrialists support Hitler, who will use any means and every complaint, and who bases his propaganda on refusing the war debt, revising the Versailles Treaty, xenophobia, and anti-Semitism. Leftist demonstrations are also an easy target. The result? In 1930, during the legislative elections, Nazi seats rise from 12 to 107. In 1932, having taken German citizenship, Hitler faces Hindenburg for the president's office. His campaign style is new at this time. He crisscrosses Germany, making 3 or 4 speeches a day before large, mesmerized crowds. He gets 13.5 million votes, 37% of the total. Old Marshal Hindenburg gets 19 million and won't even hear of Hitler as chancellor. He appoints von Papen, who forms a Baron's cabinet without a Reichstag majority and who tries to come to terms with Hitler, who in turn refuses to listen. He wants all the power for himself alone. The Nazis win 230 seats in the July elections and become the first German party. Hindenburg still won't appoint Hitler. The Reichstag is dissolved once more, and during the following elections, the Nazis suffer a slight setback. General von Schlesser, the new chancellor, tries to eliminate the Nazi movement with the army's help. He is forced to resign. Aging and unsure of himself, Hindenburg finally designates Hitler Chancellor January 30th, 1933. In keeping with tradition, he makes Hitler swear allegiance to the Weimar Constitution. Actually, the Republic is dying. That evening, a triumphant torch-bearing parade marches beneath the Chancellery windows chanting, "Today Germany is ours, tomorrow the world." Hitler is already publicly celebrating the German racial revolution, but no one in government seems to take him seriously. Neither von Papen, who has been named vice-chancellor, nor a slight gray-haired man that Hitler shuns but needs because he controls practically all means of communication. Alfred Hungenberg directs almost all the newspapers, an advertising agency, and UFA, the largest German film studios. He has only 2 Nazi ministers, one of them being Goering, who is Commissioner of the Interior for Prussia. February 27th, 1933, the Reichstag is burned to the ground. The timing is perfect for Hitler, who demands that Hindenburg sign a decree suppressing fundamental freedoms the very next day. The Nazis win 93 seats in the March 5th legislative elections, but still don't have a majority. The Social Democrats and the Catholics still retain 48%. However, elderly President von Hindenburg is under no illusions. He knows that nothing will now stop Hitler, who gains full powers from the Reichstag. Now, Goering can proclaim Germany's new rights before Parliament. Parliament stands firmly behind the party concerning the equality of the rights of the German people, which is a decisive question for the life of the German nation. Stunning as it may seem today, the Germans find Hitler reassuring. He seems to be a true patriot who will sweep away the powerless Weimar regime and restore Germany to her former greatness. A brown plague settles. All-powerful for 4 years, Hitler dissolves the Communist Party, then the unions, and declares that the Nazi Party is the only party. The SS enforce his decisions and occupy the country. Dictatorship is instaured. In public, the Chancellor is surrounded only by army and party uniforms. The Reich Ministry for Propaganda and the People's Education is given to Goebbels, a small man with a club foot who is a genius at manipulating the masses and who will lend a fanatical religious dimension to the regime. The first step is controlling the intellectuals, beginning with artists, writers, and poets.
Der Durchbruch der deutschen Revolution hat auf dem falschen Weg wieder die
The university is purged. In all major cities, books written by Marxist, pacifist, or especially Jewish authors are burned. Heine's famous poem Lorelei will bear the footnote, author unknown, in school books. Anti-Semitism is evident. Torture and sadism become official. The first real persecutions appear in 1933. After the first savage acts following the party's victory, there's a national boycott against Jewish professors, students, lawyers, and store owners. Hitler's thoughts in Mein Kampf will now be systematically applied. Some, those who understand and have the means, will flee. Albert Einstein, Fritz Lang, Marlene Dietrich, Max Ophüls, Ernst Lubitsch, Heinrich and Thomas Mann, and Bertolt Brecht. Himmler creates Dachau in March 1933. It's the first concentration camp. Others will follow. After the industrialists, after the politician, Hitler now needs an army. In 1934, Röhm, head of the SA and Hitler's main rival, claims a new revolution. The army, which is appalled by SA methods and brutality, threatens Hitler with a takeover coup. Hitler doesn't hesitate. He sacrifices the SA. Röhm is arrested by the SS and refuses to commit suicide. He is shot as well as all the other SA leaders. All in all, there are 200 killed. It's the night of the long knives.
Heute Deutschland, hurra! Hurra! Hurra!
Marshal von Hindenburg makes his final public appearances and dies at 86. As he draws his last breath, Hitler declares himself Reichsführer. Never in all history has one man held such power. He is Führer, Chancellor, President of the Reich, head of the people, head of state. He is Germany. And all about him, his old companions are holding the reins of power.
Hitler aber ist Deutschland, wie Deutschland immer wieder herniedersteigen. Und dass man die Wahrheit über Deutschland für uns, unser Oberster Hauptmann auf den Baustellen, für die Einführung der allgemeinen ganz Deutschland erfasste und für den deutschen Ex die Reinheit seiner Rasse hält.
Hitler organizes a plebiscite, which gives him 90% of the votes. Now he can do all he wishes, use all his authority. And he does so, thanks to his particular orator's talents. His speeches seem to cast a spell over his audience. He is no longer political, but fanatical, mysterious, and mystical. He has studied his gestures, intonations, and mimics, which does not prevent him from improvising hours at a time.
Sozialismus ist keine Lehre der Trägheit, sondern eine Lehre des Kampfes. Der Nationalsozialismus.
National Socialism, he claims, is not a lesson of laziness, but a lesson of fighting. National Socialism is not a lesson of happiness, but a lesson of work and persistence. He creates the German work front.
114 beim Trambau. Danke. Heil Hitler! Lassen Sie weiterarbeiten. Weiterarbeiten!
Die deutsche Arbeitsfront marschiert.
He opens work camps, which he inaugurates with the regime's dignitaries to convince and indoctrinate, but also to fight unemployment, which has reached 6 million persons in Germany in 1933. He also encourages industry, whose revival will make Germany economically independent. At the very beginning of Nazism, Hitler understood that he could count on bankers and industrialists, beginning with Alfred Krupp, who will put his entire empire at the disposal of the regime.
Adolf Hitler.
Industrial progress is astounding. It will double in 7 years. By 1938, there will be no unemployment. By 1934, Hitler will initiate an Autobahn program for both civilian and military purposes that will employ 15,000 persons. In 1939, the network will cover 3,000 kilometers. The regime guarantees work, salaries, vacations, welfare organizations, and soup kitchens. Hitler inaugurates them and mixes with the crowds and doles out collection coins just like everybody else. On the other hand, all opposition is forbidden. One day he will ask who was right, the visionary or his opponents. Even the Pope will give his blessing in 1933, declaring how happy he is about Hitler fighting communism. Now the regime feels strong enough to rid itself of the foreign constraints that it can no longer tolerate because they limit its field of action. As soon as 1933, Germany vociferously announces its departure from the Society of Nations and its intention to rearm itself. Threatened, Chancellor Dollfuss of Austria explains his fears. The aspirations of our times to attain a new social order, aspirations that mean fearsome change, have become critical.
Änderungen des politischen und wirtschaftlichen Aufbaus vieler Staaten gekennzeichnet ist.
Despite official smiles in Geneva, the disagreement over Austria will oppose Hitler and Mussolini when they meet in Venice. Mussolini is close to Dollfuss and worried about Hitler, and their conference is a failure. The answer comes a month later. Dollfuss is assassinated by Nazi terrorists. Goebbels denies any responsibility, and Mussolini prevents a first Anschluss by posting his troops along the Brenner. So Hitler turns west to the Saar. Some believe that the Saar must obviously go to France. I know that anyone with a really German heart cannot consent to this.
Dass kein wirklicher Deutscher jemals seine Stimme dazu gibt.
According to the Nazi notion that all German peoples should be unified, and in agreement with the Versailles Treaty, a referendum is organized. Everybody votes, and the result is astounding. 91% of the voters want to be attached to Germany. It's an enormous success for Hitler, and the very next day, the Nazi salute is being taught to the school children in the Saar. Hitler declares that he no longer has any territorial claims to make, but violates the Versailles Treaty by re-establishing compulsory military service, which becomes the foundation of the future German army. The French, British, and Italians meet in Stresa to decide what measures must be taken. The discussions last several days with no apparent results. The Society of Nations is informed, actually, German rearmament is accepted.
Notre politique internationale.
The international policy that we have agreed upon with our British and Italian friends is not directed against any one country. We ask for the security of all, and we want the reconciliation necessary for all peoples. Meanwhile, Mussolini is still chasing his dreams of grandeur. He wants to conquer Ethiopia. He thinks that neither France nor England, the two main colonial powers in the world, have anything to teach him. He distances himself from his allies and declares war. The Negus, with great dignity, protests through his representative.
Les peuples de couleur.
Colored peoples will see in this warlike action a threat to their own culture, and under the pressure of civilization, a threat to their own existence. Their faith in the civilizing mission of Europe will be lost and destroyed from then on.
Sera dès lors détruite et leur confiance perdue.
But a few months later, in 1935, the Nuremberg Convention is especially programmed to inspire strength and fear. Hitler presents his German citizenship law and the preservation of the purity of German blood and honor law. The only German citizen is one born in Germany or a blood relative of the German people. German citizenship is granted by a nationality certificate. Any union between a German citizen and a Jew is forbidden. Extramarital relationships between Jews and German citizens are forbidden. It is forbidden for Jews to employ German women under the age of 45 in their houses. It is forbidden for Jews to raise the flag of the Reich or wear its colors. Follows a list of sanctions. Supposedly scientific demonstrations are held everywhere in Germany, both in public and in schools, to explain the difference between a Jewish skull and an Aryan one. Women, too, bearers of the Aryan race, must receive ideological and military instruction. As in all totalitarian regimes, the army must participate in all aspects of the nation, the military, of course, but also economic, social, and personal. The German soldier is even encouraged to procreate outside the bonds of marriage, always with the thought that he is improving the race. Thus, the precaution of taking a crib along. And finally, Himmler will ask the ladies to comply with the desires of any Waffen-SS on leave. 9 months later, with the birth of an Aryan child and an official visit, a pure race certificate will be granted along with a bouquet and congratulations. The child belonging to the master race will be taken in hand, brought up, and indoctrinated. 3 new types of school are created: the Napolas for future officers, the Adolf Hitler Schulen for future administrators, and the new Nazi University for the most gifted of all. Hitler Youth members number 100,000 in 1932, 3,600,000 in 1935. The supreme moment is the oath to Hitler, which is supposed to brand the participant for life.
Diesen heiligen Eid! Diesen heiligen Eid! Dass ich dem Führer des Deutschen Reiches und Volkes
Thus, a new link is established between the Führer and the people. It means that the leader's slightest wish becomes law. On the Führer's orders, whether written or verbal, is, in fact, the law. And no one can escape it. Beside the omnipresent and omnipotent party, the 2 main forces of the dictatorship are fear of the police and propaganda. The regime not only controls the press and publishers, it uses the new techniques of radio and cinema. Hitler never makes a move without film crews with several cameras. They shoot everything, the slightest events, which may have been prepared in advance, or even impromptu scenes to impress the masses. And Leni Riefenstahl is given tremendous means to film the gigantic parades when the leader is in direct contact with the crowds. Ever since Mein Kampf, Hitler instinctively knows how to act with the crowds, how to address them. He both disdains and seduces them. The feminine side of crowds is one of his favorite themes. Politics are a woman, he writes. If you are her unfortunate lover, she will bite your head off. Castration psychosis has often been referred to when psychiatrists discuss Hitler. However, the management of terror will be the duty of Heinrich Himmler, who will be a state within the state by wielding both the police and the SS. He follows Hitler's orders scrupulously, adding his own personal touch of sadism, and we know the results, which were repression, interrogations, torture, and finally, extermination. So Himmler, following the master race creed, systematically eliminates the inferior race. The management of terror is also its administration. A geopolitical institute is created in Munich to reap, class, and study with a magnifying glass all the countries Germany is destined to invade. This is called intelligence. In March 1936, Hitler breaks the last rule of the Versailles Treaty. He reoccupies and rearms the Rhineland. His advantage is that the Western democracies are only exchanging notes, whereas it is still possible to stop German totalitarianism.
Und die Quelle meiner Kraft ist das deutsche Volk. Nicht meinetwegen bitte ich Sie, dass Sie an diesem 9.
It's not for myself that I'm asking you to do your duty on the 29th of March, but it's for the people and their future. Because we are mortal, but Germany will always live. We will die, but Germany must live now and forever.
Deutschland muss leben, jetzt und immer!
The plebiscite is 99% favorable. Protests are made at the Society of Nations. A European Security Conference is convened and Germany is threatened. But no measures will be taken because philosophical speeches are the extent of Europe's ire.
La guerre est l'ennemi de tout progrès.
War is the enemy of all progress, of all civilization. And those who are now preaching the beauty and the greatness of strength are only defending barbarianism. This generation has the opportunity of realizing, through the Society of Nations, a splendid vision of peace.
Réalisé par la Société des Nations, la splendide vision de la paix.
In August, Berlin is the seat of the Olympic Games, which is a new occasion for Nazi propaganda. I declare the Games open. The Wehrmacht's rearmament speeds up, and the Spanish Civil War will allow the Germans to test their new materiel. In September 1936, Goering declares to industrialists, "The battle we are about to wage will demand a colossal industrial output. We are on the doorstep of general mobilization, almost at war. The only difference being, not a shot has been fired." The Navy is also reinforced, although Hitler has always dreamed of an alliance with England, to whom he is willing to abandon domination of the waves in order to retain control of the continent. What he doesn't know is that Churchill will soon be Prime Minister. Hitler needs allies, and it will be Mussolini who has never forgiven either France nor England for his problems with the Society of Nations following his invasion of Ethiopia. He even suggests the Rome-Berlin axis. The Duce, who has yelled that the Führer was insane and a sexual degenerate after the assassination of Dollfuss, is literally fascinated by Germany's might. He tells Hitler that he too is going to promote anti-Semitic legislation, but it will never be applied as forcefully as in Germany. Hitler's other great objective, also mentioned in Mein Kampf, is about to become reality: the conquest of living space in the East European regions, particularly those where there are German minorities, because he can't stand the thought that they aren't bound to Germany. Opposite Germany, division and resignation appear, but everyone still pretends to believe in peace. We are all agreed to serve the cause of peace. We are all agreed to organize equal security in legal conditions.
We are all at one in trying to serve the cause of peace. Without peace, not only in Europe, in the whole world, we are all in full agreement.
We are all here to serve peace.
Ich bin der festen Überzeugung.
Even Goebbels has the cheek to speak of it. I am firmly convinced that peace must be maintained because a new war would be a disaster for all nations, the victors like the vanquished.
Les vainqueurs et les vaincus.
The two dictators, drawn closer by their isolation, meet again. The Rome-Berlin axis is reinforced. America is beginning to realize what is going on in Europe. Roosevelt will appeal to Hitler to respect the rights of 30 independent democratic nations. The answer will be forthcoming. Hitler convenes the Reichstag. He merely reads Roosevelt's appeal and turns it into a joke.
Herr Roosevelt verlangt endlich die Bereitwilligkeit, ihm die Zusicherung zu geben. Schweden, Dänemark, Niederlande, Belgien, Großbritannien, Irland, Frankreich, Portugal, Spanien, die Schweiz, Liechtenstein, Luxemburg, Polen, Ungarn, Rumänien, Jugoslawien, Russland, Bulgarien, Türkei, Irak, Arabien, Syrien, Palästina, Ägypten.
Night falls over Germany. That special darkness that the Nazi regime has always celebrated with its great parades and glowing rallies, where the exultant crowd crows the bidding of its fanatical leader. In 1938, Jewish persecution increases alarmingly. The pretext is the real or supposed Jewish responsibility in the assassination of the German diplomat in Paris, von Rath, who is granted grandiose funeral ceremonies. The sum of Jewish holdings is published. Goebbels enforces a series of new decrees, the indication of Jewish ownership in any commercial enterprise, the barring of Jews as lawyers or doctors, the obligation for any Jew to add Sarah or Israel to his or her name, passports bearing the letter J, and the expulsion of 17,000 Polish Jews living in Germany. Violence is at its paroxysm November 9th and 10th. Pogroms are organized all over Germany. In Berlin, the population burns synagogues, destroys and pillages stores, desecrates cemeteries. It's the night of crystal. The next day, the Reich demands 1 billion marks indemnities from the Jews. And the Jews are forbidden to attend universities, use buses, or visit museums. Why the museums? Because obviously Nazi culture is Aryan and reserved for Aryans. They are exclusively dedicated to the worship of the leader. And when the Führer inaugurates a museum, it's only to contemplate his own image. Or it's the beauty of the master race compared to the ugliness of the fallen slave. At this point, it can be said that Germany has fallen into the depths of folly and insanity. An example of which is this sculptor's work, gigantic statues of German soldiers, which will be reproduced 1,000-fold to line the frontiers of the future Great Reich after the inevitable conquests, to ensure that the foreigner will understand that he is entering the domain of the master of the world. Folly, insanity, a world war is about to begin. Joachim Fest, a German historian, will write, "Hitler's life is barely worth a description if we do not remark circumstances going beyond his persona, and if his biography were not a continual part of the biography of an era. His nature was such he was destined to achieve the disaster in which even he was not spared."